This conference will now be recorded.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's Operational Excellence Decision Compass meeting. Thanks so much for joining us today. I'm Penelope Brown, Content Director for the Manufacturing Leadership Council and Group Leader for the Operational Excellence Decision Compass Group. Joining me today will be Dr. D.P. Prakash, Co-CEO of YOUTOPIAN, who will be sharing with us how to improve productivity in the anti-COVID area with AI XR innovation. After his remarks, we will be opening our phone lines for your Q&A, but you're always also welcome to submit your questions at any time through that chat box that you can see at the bottom of your GoToMeeting control panel. So just to take us through a few things before we get started, the June edition of the Manufacturing Leadership Journal will be devoted to covering the coronavirus pandemic, response and recovery throughout the manufacturing industry. But as part of that, we are surveying the manufacturing community to kind of get a feel for what they think the impacts are going to be of the pandemic outbreak, both kind of what you're experiencing currently and what you expect to experience more in the long term. If you could do us a favor and please check out that survey, take just a few minutes to fill it out if you have not already. It really won't take too much of your time, but it does help us a lot in making sure that we are providing you with some informed content about what's happening out there, and really kind of gives us a better view of how you see things unfolding in the industry over the coming months. So like I said, please take a moment to go fill that out. We would be much appreciative of your time. We've also developed a number of COVID-19 resources for manufacturing. Online, we have a discussion forum, peer-to-peer discussion forum for you to go kind of share your thoughts, ask questions, put out some ideas, that kind of thing. So if you visit our website, mlcouncil.com, and click on the COVID-19 item at the top of the menu, it will take you to that section of our website. Also there, you will find some resources such as these COVID-19 info sheets. There's a few titles here that you can see. We've actually got more than what's on this list. And some of the manufacturing community has been kind enough to give us some of their playbooks, their own response documentation that they've developed, and invited us to share that with the manufacturing community. So that particular document at this point is not available on our website. We hope it will be soon in the next few days. But in the meantime, if it's something that you're interested in, you can email anybody on the MLC team, myself, or that email that you see there, mlcouncil@nam.org. It's a really nice comprehensive document that has some good plans in there, some things that you may or may not have considered as you're moving your company through this challenging time. So the link to all of those resources, again, at the bottom of this slide. And we've been hosting a number of calls on this topic. Of course, as you can see, we have in our member content library the full archive of calls from this particular Decision Compass group, but we've also introduced a new section of our content library that has all the archived calls around COVID-19. So you may have taken part in some of our town hall discussions that we've been having every week. And we also have a few other focused topical calls on there as well. So be sure to give that a look. You may find some of those recordings to be helpful for you during this time. Okay, so moving into our featured presentation for today. The digital era and demands brought about by globalization, shifting consumer preferences, and other radical changes to the industry has brought about much disruption to manufacturing in recent years. But perhaps nothing can match the disruption created by the coronavirus pandemic. No business leader alive today has dealt with disruption on this scale, and the world has changed dramatically since the Spanish flu pandemic of 1918. Today's leaders are going to need to rely on technology as never before to see through this challenge. Much has been discussed about the use of AI and related technologies like augmented and virtual reality to enhance remote operations and minimize disruptions to productivity during this time. While no outcomes are certain, it can be said with certainty that nothing will ever be the same. So how can you embrace technology to improve your productivity during a challenging time? Here to share his insights with us is Dr. D.P. Prakash, co-CEO of YOUTOPIAN. D.P., the floor is yours.
Thank you, Penelope. Good morning, everybody. This is D.P. Prakash. It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks to Penelope, Dan Witherington, and team at NAM MLC. It's absolutely an honor to be a part of this NAM MLC community. This forum has had a profound impact on my thinking, my career, and I know I'm not the only CEO who's thinking this way. There are many other CEOs who are feeling this way about this forum. Truly quarterbacking, meaning to be able to see what connections are possible, to be able to make a play and help all the leadership team across the different industries to have this opportunity to think at a higher level and play at a higher level. So in some sense, it's a homecoming for me to come back and serve this community a little bit, okay, share some thoughts. So that said, this talk is really about you, the people who have made the time to come here to listen to the experiences. And the purpose of this call is to ensure that if you are working with the innovation challenges, hopefully you'll see some immediately applicable use cases and pathways that we'll be sharing here that you can go and make an immediate impact on your organization. And if additional help is needed, you'll know whom to actually come and talk to, so we can actually assist you in your process to be exponentially better. So let me move forward here. Okay, so a little bit about what YOUTOPIAN is about. I have had 17 years at IBM Microelectronics and 6 years at Global Foundries, and learning at the cutting edge of multiple factories, leading innovation at the cutting edge, seeing the cross-cultural challenges, the technology challenges that are coming. And I've been at the end of the factory floor, figuring out the top floor to factory floor, what the thoughts are, what the challenges are. But a bunch of us felt that there is a better way to serve the need of people like us. And so now if a innovation support group was there, how would life be? That's how we thought about. So my co-CEO, Lisa Sibilia, an alum of Stanford University Business School, is also here. Our vision is to drive to accelerate humanity to full potential. We see a lot of waste that is happening. Some are structural, some are because of technology, but we think there's an opportunity to do things differently. We are focused on changing the future of work and education, two areas that we are passionate about. Think about it like two wings of an airplane, one wing dedicated to enterprise transformation on the left side, and the other one focused on transforming education. We think AI and XR, the two core engines that we develop, are equally applicable. So we're passionate about this, we're excited about this. Our mission is to begin with innovation as a service, and already we've been, our help has been sought by scientists who are at the forefront of the COVID battle. So we'll share with you some of the learning there. Creating pathways for frictionless learning. Today, we all know, our children, how things can be better, how we can actually remove some structural barriers. So we're working on some of that. And ultimately, to create an innovation platform so solution seekers and solution providers can advance the business outcomes and not worry too much about the minutiae. Our values are important. We believe that always doing what is right for the client in an unbiased manner is important. To be human-centered in the age of AI, where we think humans should run AI and not the other way around, to celebrate what is special in each individual in front of us, and innovating constantly. And the idea here is that we think when we need to step up the creativity, we need to not look outside, instead look inside to the child within. The children around us, they are the ones who are true innovators, we think, because they don't know that what they don't know. In other words, like they try and fail and try and fail, and then they walk. So huge inspiration. So we try to connect to the children within, and always asking questions to find a better way. In all these ways, our core value is to drive to zero waste in everything we do. And we think it also makes sound business sense, apart from being a sustainable way forward for the world. So in this talk, we'll talk about these 5 pivot points. One is, what are the forces of change that leaders like us have to contend with today? It can be bewildering because of the rate at which things are changing now is remarkably different compared to how things were just 1 to 2 decades earlier. In this situation, what is true north? How do we find our way quickly? And as boats that actually are in the ocean looking for a way to the shore, we're looking for a lighthouse for innovation. And this is something that we empathized with all leaders around the industries, and we created this for you. So you can see how when AI meets XR, that's artificial intelligence meets extended reality, I would like to think about that as a love story. I'd like to think about it as how these two work together, collaborate together to create something more beautiful together. So we'll show you how our lighthouse concept has come about to help you. We will give you proven use cases to improve productivity. There are use cases that you can use immediately within 2 days to create value, 2 hours to 2 days, 2 months, 2 quarters, and 2 years. So we look in these horizons, and we've actually put together a nice list for you that you can take forward and apply. Hopefully you'll come back and share with us what's working. And the idea of getting real with ROI, we see some common mistakes that are being made when people who are responsible for innovation get stuck with shiny new objects and shiny new innovations, and they get stuck in demos. And we wanted to help you to steer past some of those challenges that our colleagues have faced. And ultimately, it's about collaborative pathways to win. This is not going to be a solo sport. It has to be a team sport where we work with each other, leverage forums like NAM MLC, and we raise the bar together. So this is what we see as the opportunity for a better world. So let's begin with disruptive forces that are driving the rate of change today at 10x compared to where we were 1 to 2 decades ago. So in the semiconductor industry that I was deeply familiar with, in 3 decades I've actually spent my life there, and now I'm also involved in the pharma industry. Moore's law fading out in the semiconductor industry is a fundamental change, meaning you can't make the chips smaller anymore for too long. They're already at 7 nanometers, 6 nanometer for shipments at the cutting edge, and it's getting exponentially more cost prohibitive. And even if we do continue in this, the traditional shrinking game is nearing its end. No surprise, it's something that we knew when Moore's law in the 1960s came about and Bob Dennard came up with the scaling theory at IBM. Something we need to accept and move forward. There's going to be other ways of improving performance, but the way we actually scale the chips down traditionally for the last 55, 60 years, that is certainly fading out. The disruptive innovations that semiconductor industry has given birth to, such as artificial intelligence, machine learning, augmented reality, virtual reality, robotic process automation, blockchain, 5G, robotics, these are not buzzwords. These are real levers of innovation that any CEO, any leader has to contend with, because if your competitor is going to be using some of this to move ahead, there's a competitive advantage, situation there. So already, these were challenging even before the COVID timeframe, and there was a broader shift to Industry 4.0, where physical, digital, and even biological convergence was going on. And then comes COVID, a step function change where remote work, which used to be nice to have, something we knew earlier for years. We've been working on opportunities there as a nice to have. Now it's become a fundamental necessity. A whole new ground rule on how we work and live has come about. So when I met the CEO of Cisco, John Chambers, back in November for 2 hours, we sat together and talked about his experiences, having acquired 180 startups and led the world to one of the most profitable companies. His point at that time was, hey, 40% of the firms today may fade out in the next 10 years because of AI, right? And I thought at that time that he was being too dramatic, but now in the COVID environment, and I see the wisdom of what he had to say, and I think he probably underestimated the impact, considering what's going on right now. 10x the rate of change. So what is true north? So in Utopian, we think we need to be learning constantly. So the idea that what you learned yesterday is going to be, relevant, today, that is no longer the case. And it used to be like, a quarter ago we did something and just keep on building on that old strategy. That is changing dramatically. So we have to get the principle of learning constantly, testing the solutions constantly. The solution you had a quarter ago, is it still the best solution? The concept of zero waste in everything that we do. An organization that has the zero waste principle embedded, asymptotically reaching zero waste in everything we do, such an organization will gain competitive advantage. The AI predictive state, no longer are organizations that are reactive, right, going to be having much room to play because of the fundamental forces at play. Predictive, organizations are going to become more powerful. But we in Utopian actually have a particular point of view. We think humans should run AI, and not the other way around. It's AI is not something we need to be, afraid of. We have, in the history of humanity, when we innovated, we came up. Imagine the very first lady or gentleman who actually walked inside the cave and said, "I found fire," and it must have scared the heck out of them. It must have changed their way of life. But eventually humanity got around to figuring out how to work with it. So AI is the fire of our time, probably even more powerful, but certainly being human-centered. So these innovations help us to become even more human, more fully human, that we see as a true north. So let me see here. Okay, so as part of this true north journey, organizations are marching towards digital transformation. So what is digital transformation we see on the work side, on the education side? On the work side, we think organizations are marching towards taking advantage of point solutions. And that's very common, that bright people everywhere thinking and saying, I have a pain point, I'm just going to do something about it. That is fine, but we think a holistic approach where it integrates the different solutions together into something greater than the sum of parts is going to be even more powerful. So that requires a long-term approach to innovation. That requires a keeping in touch with what's going on outside, given that things are changing fast. That is going to be important. On the education side, we think education, storytelling, and gamification are converging. So these are the broad strokes of where we see digital transformation, heading. Now, before I go further, let me actually clarify what I mean by extended reality, XR. On the left side, you see there's one form of extension of reality, enhancement to reality. It is a follow-on to Google Glass. In this case, it's RealWear head-mounted tablet, and there are many such form factors out there. The one that I work closely with is the RealWear HMT, and you wear it, and it extends your capabilities instantly. Google Glass, started the journey, and there are pioneers who are in this going in this direction. If you want instant value addition, this is one area. If you look at on the other side, which is the virtual reality, you have the Oculus, you have the HTC, and those kinds of headsets, completely simulated, synthetic. And in between is augmented reality, where like you have a projection onto reality. So there are different forms of reality, and the industry now calls it XR. And there are people who call augmented reality as mixed reality. Microsoft invented the term. But the thought here is XR means different forms of reality, give more than what meets the eye, so the person can actually do more, right? So that's the thought here. Now, this is an important slide, and this is a slide that was prepared for you to take away, immediately to your workplaces. So major areas of productivity where organizations can benefit immediately by addressing is why, and we have known that even before COVID and so on. But the second one, because of COVID, pushed to the forefront is remote work. The concept of we can't travel anymore. Well, for the foreseeable future, right? That's going to be some people say up until end of next year, you might have restricted travel in so many ways until there is a vaccine and so on. So for some number of quarters, there's going to be a need to be able to work from wherever you are, and that means that'll include things like 24/7 innovation support center, control center, ability to do remote diagnostics. Things that used to be nice to have, now with augmented reality remote collaboration has moved to the top. just on par with AI, like, you need to have something like this today. And there are solutions that actually you can turn on where within a matter of 2 days, you can have these capabilities, right? If you want, it's happening. And organizations are just exponentially growing. And what, in my experience, was done in 2 years, today, organizations are doing 10x more in 2 months. And I see this from the forefront with the pharma, with the anti-COVID battle, with the scientists that are actually racing. They're taking full advantage of this. So every organization should take note of what's going on here and benefit in this way. The standard operating procedures can be made 10x faster. There's an EE Times article that came out about how we did it with a great partner in Boston. And expert knowledge capture, you can do standard operating procedures much better, higher quality, and faster than ever done before. Not just dense text, but adding pictures, adding videos, and adding even 3D immersive as needed. A new standard has been created that will raise the bar. Connected worker, where AI and AR begin to work together. We saw this many years ago, and I give full credit to the CEO of Global Foundries, Tom Caulfield, who saw it as one of the early pioneers in the space. AI XR integration and is what we call the play on. And certainly we are seeing connected worker platforms emerging. AI and AR are getting integrated, and amazing new capabilities are now possible without travel. In fact, not even the idea of traveling and being next to the other person and working, as opposed to now in real time, collaborating from around the world and seeing what I see and being able to do more without travel. It's just incredible, incredible to see it unfold in front of our eyes. We predicted this, but it's happening. Leaders are actually moving in this direction. Immersive factory tour 10x faster. The technologies don't have to be too fancy. In the case of a simple VR tour that we're able to create for a factory, 3 football field size, would take about 2 hours to actually travel and see, but you can now get that in 5 minutes. So simple things like this can be done. People cannot travel to your facility, but you can now create this. If you need help with this one, let me know. I'll guide you on how you can actually create this for your factory and make people access your facility without traveling. Training is big. VR today is booming, and emergency response, high-risk environments, complex tools, empathy, diversity, and inclusion. Those kinds of trainings are happening, and companies like Walmart are actually taking advantage of that. 17,000, 20,000 headsets being ordered there to actually train their people. So leading companies are recognizing the opportunity that training is better. You can do things in half the time by leveraging VR as part of your blended learning programs. Reimagining HR, the way you used to give people a write-up on what the job is and reading, that text-based is now getting replaced by, you want to experience this job? Here, just wear this headset, take a look at this is your job. Interested? Okay, take a quiz. So we can do that. All that stuff can now happen much faster, more creatively. We can hire people, train people, even assist and promote by using these techniques. And as I said, there are companies that are beginning to do that. So taking advantage of this in this time when people can't travel is an important knob. So visualizing, we see collaborative factory design happen. They're embracing remote VR, collaborative VR, because the idea of everybody coming together in one place and then figuring out the design and making sure errors are taken care, and then you cut the pipes. That is old school. What people are doing now is leading edge factory design construction. They're collaboratively working in immersive spaces using VR and walking inside buildings and figuring out, making measurements and so on. And so they're pushing the boundary. We have seen from my own lab work, innovation lab work, walking inside a building or a tool or even a chip and the scan of a human brain, and recently even walking inside the DNA. You can go into our website, utopian.world, and see these things are now possible. Imagine being able to walk inside the COVID virus and seeing the enemy from within, understanding the structure. This kind of visualization with 3D VR immersive or 2D 360 is game changing. Once you understand what the enemy is about, you have a chance to actually fight better. Automating the rules, rules-based repetitive tasks. When you automate them, you can actually reduce cognitive load and let the machine do the job and reduce human errors. That's RPA. That is, a use case that people should look into as well. In complex environments, RPA can bring quick results. Predictive maintenance. If you want a return on investment rapidly, then predictive maintenance is the way for you. Smarter decisions unplanned downtime can be brought down, variability can be brought down. This is again an area where NAM MLC made a huge impact by connecting me with like leaders in this space. Those, particularly some of them from Stanford University alums, really phenomenal work going on here. ROI fast, go for predictive maintenance. Image analytics is now, I'd say off the shelf. If you look at some of the companies that are doing it at the cutting edge, you can do image analytics now faster, better than ever done before. My team has had experience there in the past, and automated machine learning, AutoML, is something you should leverage if you deal with images. Augmented brand experiences for marketing and sales kits can be done with XR, give more than just what used to give before. And last one's my favorite, ability to get every brain in the game, every employee, stakeholder in the game, and crowdsourcing ideas and becoming an idea generating organization every quarter, having innovation tournaments, a platform. Q Markets is something I've worked with, an innovation platform. And the idea here is that these are the different knobs, but each of them could be a silo. And our goal is to help you to think beyond the silo and think like a lighthouse. So you can see here that the enterprise AI, XR, digital transformation can be thought of. All those items I said before can now be organized in a logical way. You begin by looking at the opportunities on the left side and then thinking about the solutions on the right side. So siloed data, the social distance issue, the variability in human performance, the complexity of the operations, the reactive approaches we see as opposed to prediction, and ultimately decision speed. These things are opportunities, challenges to address. On the right side, you see solutions. I've classified here AR in purple and VR use cases in blue to illustrate the point that AR and VR are foundational elements. You build on top of that with AI engines, you actually get the highest bang for the buck. Some of the industries, like if you look at the defense, if you look at the fintech, they are moving forward with the top of the lighthouse here in terms of decision speed being crucial, but there's no reason why we cannot learn from what's happening in the defense and in the fintech industries. Pharma is beginning to move in that space, but this is the methodical way in which you can organize the use cases. And more questions on this, welcome. So in terms of connected worker through AI, AR integration, you can see that remote work, SOP creation, AI analytics coming together for 10x faster rate of progress in the COVID era. This is something we are seeing, as I said, in the pharma industry today. People fighting the COVID battle are embracing, wholeheartedly embracing and moving on forward. The connected worker platform is taking off. On the VR side, a quick report card here on what's working, what's not working. And VR has had a bad rap. And so if you work with VR on a day in and day out basis like I have, then here is how it looks like. In the VR side, what's working is it's a safe way to learn in a classroom without bumping into anybody else. Just go into a classroom and learn, immerse yourself, particularly when you can't travel, right? You can avoid travel this way. It lowers the cost without having to go somewhere and do the learning. Now you're shifting the center of gravity to where the person is and bringing the answer to the person. It delights 99.8% of the users in demos. I've done personally demos to over 5,000 people. So I've noticed that vast majority of the people who try it, they literally go back to their childhood and they smile, they laugh, they're happy about using this. And it's one-on-one training, self-paced learner experience. Quiz can be enabled right now. The same highest standard, quality standard can now be brought to everybody. And as opposed to varying teachers, reaching students, learners, AI analytics can be brought in. Certainly, the ground rule for data privacy has to be taken into account. There needs to be a balance there, but opportunity to learn. Certainly, in sports, people are beginning to use this as a way to improve performance. Transformative potential is huge. Who would have ever thought that language learning would benefit from VR? Teachers who are in humanities, teaching French, teaching Russian, are actually using the concept of total physical response. In simple terms, muscle memory. When you sit and listen, that's one way you learn. But when you are moving and learning, you learn faster, you learn better. And the languages using VR is actually going nicely. Healthcare, some of the work I see at Stanford University is at the cutting edge. And clearly, this is a technology that is coming of age. What needs to improve? Certainly, there are people who get more motion sickness, and there's the stability balancing that needs to happen to help such people. Cleaning procedures in the day of COVID is going to be extremely important, and that more work is needed there. The UI UX design requirements are complex today, and CAD owners are actually at an advantage. For instance, if you work with, if I had a chance to go and see Lam from Insights Equipment Maker, leader in that space, and they used to have $100 million worth tools that they had to ship everywhere and have people train with the actual tool. Now it's being done in virtual reality laboratory that works like throughout the day, and they're able to train people in VR, and their education budget gets slashed to a fraction of what it used to be. So this is happening, and but CAD is important. So if you don't have CAD, then how do you actually do it? It's an industry problem, and there are ways to get around it, but that is a pain point we see. So developing environment right now is complex because of coding requirements, and yes, you can go learn Unity or Unreal, but it takes effort. What people need is reusable templates and something that makes it easier for people to create VR. The industry is working on it. I had a chance to give a keynote just 2 days ago to another VR innovation summit, and that's a Germany Europe consortium, and we see that there are a lot of people working to make it easier for people. So we recognize that cost cannot be prohibitive. What used to be $50,000 for creating a 10-minute experience is now driving to 5,000, and it's likely to go even more lower. And people recognize that must create value right out of the box. I wanted to give VR a proper assessment, because I think like people may have mixed views about it. There's good things and there's not things that need to improve. But with any technology, that's what it is. Particularly disruptive innovations, they start out scrappy, but pretty soon they set the standard. So, and it's easy to set up a VR innovation lab environment without too much investment. So, if you need help, do write to me. I'll help you to set it up in your space, and you can start experimenting in case you've not done that. Now, the rest of the deck, let's focus on the psychology of this leadership aspects, because technology is only half of the story. The other half is really leadership, organizational design, change management. So, a few slides on that. We see common pitfalls to innovation. One is putting technology first. Oh, this is a really shiny, cool technology. Let me go work with it. And yes, it's true. And if you are not careful, then you become like a moth to fire. You're getting close, and so what? What's next? You're stuck in cool demos rather than solving a real problem. And there is no return on investment for the project. Why? Well, we did not even calculate ROI. It's not valuable enough. The client has a pain point, but is unwilling to pay for it. Well, we created all this stuff, but client adoption is low. Why? Organization design is it prevents people from taking risks. So those kinds of things. For example, if you look at large organizations, they have inertia. History shows this. It was not the big companies in retail that changed retail. It was a small company called Amazon. It was a small company called Netflix that challenged Blockbuster in streaming. It was a small company called Uber that changed transportation. It was a small company called Airbnb that changed hospitality. You get the idea. Small companies are nimble, fast, they get the things done, and large companies, struggle. And this is something you all can learn from the history. And the goal is then, okay, what do we do? Well, we begin with the end user experience and the business outcomes. So the mindset has to shift to overcome the barriers to innovation in these ways. When you start from the end user and work backwards to technology, you're engaging the end user from day one. Somebody said to me the other day, oh, we test with the end users from time to time. And I say that is not the best approach. The end user must be creating the solution. So we empower the end users to create the solution in real world conditions from day one. And we drive towards business outcomes, that is 2x to 10x from the start. If we don't have equations working out that way, that project is doomed from start. The concept of innovation tasting is introduced here. Just like you have wine tasting, you have different types of wines that you can try and taste and appreciate. Innovations happening at such a fast and furious pace to cope with the change. Innovation must happen at the speed of change, and you have a chance to now taste them. And people like Dan Witherington from NAM, people like Andy Tim, as I said, former CTO of PTC, now working with me as the chief of ecosystems, innovation ecosystems. What these people are doing is phenomenal. Being able to connect people who may not otherwise know how to talk to each other and very quickly change the game. How NAM MLC and Dan changed the game for me was certainly 2 years ago or 2.5 years ago, connecting me with Jim Heppelman of PTC, that was an AR, a pivot point. And then subsequently, just to name a few, subsequently working with Art Systems with Andrew Scheuermann at Stanford University. These are just a couple of things, but there's a lot more, that I can say that is happening because of this concept of innovation tasting. So taste the innovation, you like it, buy it, otherwise don't buy it. Bring the innovators to the backyard of people. Don't get people into the sugar high of going into conferences in massive numbers and you come back while you're facing the grind again. So deeply understand the technology and learn how emerging solutions can be applied quickly. I would say Dan Witherington and Tim are superbly positioned to help the world there. Innovation Lab has to be set up and continuously test the latest developments, latest solutions, and driving POCs, pilots, and production. That is the way to go. Chief Information Officer is now also the Chief Innovation Officer. So last couple of slides, this is to help people who, if you are at the earlier parts of your innovation journey, then this slide may be of use to you. The thought is, if you answer these questions, think about this innovation as 3 parts: Act 1, Act 2, and Act 3. Act 1 is you ask the basic questions. Who is the end user of innovation? What is the desired business outcome and the pain point in this use case? Is this even the right problem to solve? If you have those questions answered up front, that's Act 1. Act 2 is, okay, there is a right problem to solve. There is ROI here. What is the lowest level of technology needed to get the job done? Just because it's the technologies exist doesn't mean everything needs a shiny new way of doing it. If it can be done simpler, do it simpler. Competitive analysis. What is the right fit solution to go about meeting the need? So understanding that technology regret is real. You invest in something and you go a couple of quarters and realize, man, this is not the right thing or it's obsolete. So understanding the right fit. To do this, you need to have innovation, the pulse on the innovation ecosystem, bringing innovation conferences. This for one is an example of sharing, right? Backyard, bringing to your backyard the innovators and connecting the thought leaders from where you are. Again, I would go to people like Dan Witherington and Ethan among the people to leverage. These people have invested their lives trying to figure out who's doing what, and they are proven in this area. Build it in-house or work with strategic partners. So agile startups, as I said before, they have a track history of making changes that are dramatic. Big companies, oftentimes, I would say they struggle with it because what made them successful is thinking in a certain way. If you want to have them do something different, it is not easy. And human experience is such that big companies, struggle with that challenge. But once you take care of that part, that's Act 2. Act 3 is actually the pure entrepreneurship, what we call the grit, the moxie, right, of taking the risk. Many times taking risks, is discouraged. And but when we were children, that was not the way we were. We took risks. That's how we walked. So building a scrappy MVP, figuring out the innovative parts early so you can own the IP, outsourcing the rest, that needs to be made so you don't waste time on things that can be outsourced. Iterating with innovation culture. There needs to be a certain tolerance of failure. Failure is not a bad thing. The more faster you fail, the closer you get to the solution. And I would say learning quickly, right? That's what comes out of it. The end user adoption, hopefully that'll be the movie will end properly with the net promoter score in a favorable way. End user pays for the pilots in production and value creation, value capture begins. In this journey, it's important to remember, you have to be effective first and then be efficient. If we try to manage our innovators and ask them to be efficient and effective at the same time, that's difficult. In the first time, let them try and be effective in any which way possible. And then once it's proven, then you think in terms of efficiency. So this principle works pretty well. So just a couple of things you can go into the website and see. We can now walk inside buildings, tools, nanotech chips, human brain, DNA. COVID is coming. We're working on that one so everybody can see how this little thing actually looks from inside. Go to the website and you can actually take a look at the demo. Here's an example of conversational AI-powered intelligent assistants developed with our Stanford CS students. And the idea here is that Alexa means or any of those voice bots, you speak and it speaks back to you. It's an audio experience. Now where the world is going is conversational AI is powering intelligent assistants that look at you. And there's a demo here. If you get the deck, you can actually see it. I will not play it here. But the thought here is that in real time with cloud-based technologies, you can now have AI engines linked up with, in this case, the Sumerian AR from AWS. But the thought is that these technologies are now maturing, where when you speak, it speaks right back to you. Imagine having your machine, a personality, and you speak to it before you have taken 2-3 sips of your cup of coffee. Maya, in this case, she tells you what you need to know. Here are the problems that happened. Here's what I did to fix it. Here is what you need to be, thinking about. It's a new world that they're actually seeing. So let me conclude by saying this, right? What is it that we're all seeking? Well, the success metric should be safety, for sure, return on investment to run a profitable, company, and above all, there's a happiness metric, right? Happiness of all stakeholders. As I said before, that should be a metric for CEOs everywhere. And it was my co-CEO Lisa Sibilia is a Stanford alum, and she actually invented the concept of core happiness, measuring it, level 10 happiness, she calls it. And we actively measure it, saying that are we, getting happier or not? Are we driving happiness or not? And she's not, she, as pioneering as she is, there is General John Allen, who I had a chance to meet. He's actually the president of Brookings Institute, and spent all his life in defense. And when I sat down for a round table with him, he said something that was really I never expected. That is, a person who spent all this time on things like AI and hyperwar and so on, saying, you know what, CEOs today should be measured on one metric that they're not measured on: happiness. And I said, couldn't agree with you more. So I think safety, ROI, along with that, happiness should be a measure. The world will be a better place when that becomes a metric that is everybody will accept. Yeah, that is important, right? And so in these ways, in the Utopian team, we would like to promise the world and deliver. Promise the world of a better place and deliver. This tagline is not something we came up with. Our clients actually gave it to us, that's what we're doing. They said, you promise the world and you're delivering. So hopefully this talk was of some use to you. Let's get into the question and answer session now. Please, Dan, myself, and Andy Tim, you can reach us anytime, be it in the form of consulting, be in the form of innovation sessions that we can help you with. This talk, as I said, is really about you. If you have barriers to innovation, welcome to connect with us, and we'll help you in every way possible to remove barriers to your innovation. So let's win together. All right. Any questions?
Well, thank you a lot for that, DP. That was really great. I am going to go ahead and unmute our phone line. So if any of our callers are in a noisy place, you want to make sure to mute your own phone. Hold on just a second here. And let's see if we had anything. Just to kick off the questions, I'll ask while everyone's getting settled in. So you mentioned that you want to consider how the technologies can solve specific problems. So how will technologies like AR and some of these XR technologies aid with social distancing in this era of COVID inside production environments?
Excellent. So may I answer the question?
Go right ahead.
Okay. So if you look at the COVID era, the number one shift, and Wharton School did a study, and they found that the biggest shift from what happened with the COVID, the step function shift, is the physical social distance. That is going to drive how we work, how we learn, how we live. So how do these technologies actually, how are they going to help? The idea is, how do we collaborate while being at a distance? The concept of remote work, the concept of if I see what you see, and we're able to have in that instant, right, without being right next to each other, being from a distance, but yet be able to see. So for instance, if you wear a RealWear head-mounted tablet, just give you an example, you're wearing it, and what it does is it has a camera that looks at in the same direction, first-hand view of what you're seeing. Let's say you're in a location like Italy, you're working on something. What you are seeing can now be streamed live to a person that is sitting in California, and they now are hands-free, voice activated. They're now seeing what the other person is seeing. Before, they used to have to travel to sit and see what they saw together and then do something. Now they don't. They are from a distance, and they're actually collaborating. Let us say you are a professor in a university and you have students. Now it's going to be some time before people can come in and be able to sit together and work. So if you're a student in a lab of a professor, you can be beaming what you're seeing in your lab and the professor and your fellow students can be elsewhere, and they can be contributing in real time. The concept of 24/7 innovation support. For instance, let us say that you are running an enterprise and you have technicians who are of a certain kind. And before it used to be that they had to be traveling around, right? For instance, if you look at a lithography company, you have extreme ultraviolet tool. Those things are very expensive, $250 million a pop. And allowing people to travel around and servicing all those machines is just not scalable. Now you have them sit wherever they are, and from the other side, they're going to be beaming. You see what I see, and because be it a RealWear, be it a HoloLens, you can now beam, what you're seeing in real time. The other person sees it, and you're able to now collaborate. The people who are experts can be in one place without having to travel, and in these ways, be it work or be it education, you can move the needle.
Thank you for that. Do we have any questions from the floor?
Yeah, so DP, this is Steve Moskowitz. Nice to chat with you again from Integris here. Really
Hi,
good talk.
Steve. How are you?
I'm doing well, thanks. The slide you showed with kind of the 12 different areas of examples, when you've seen it successful, do you think it's more successful to have kind of a central team that then supports all those groups? Or do you kind of let just the technology be distributed and let teams kind of manage on their own? We're trying to make that decision now of, do we centralize some of our AR, VR experience into one small group that then supports everybody? Or do we just make the technology available and see where teams take it?
Great question. What we found in the past working is this, Steve, and by the way, we should talk offline as well. I will help you. The thing is that there is a need for democratizing innovation. Meaning, if you look at, for example, let me give you a situation. Like if you have, let's say, PowerPoint, right? If you're creating PowerPoints, you say, hey, let them come to one place where the PowerPoints will be created. Everybody can take from there. That's one way. The other way is, let me show you how to actually create PowerPoints. Anybody can now create. The same basic thing is what we are seeing happening. The innovation lab, the reason why it should exist in organizations is that there needs to be a group that is doing the cutting edge, innovation tasting and so on for the whole organization, where everybody doesn't have to be like, working, replicating all of that. So there's certainly a need for any organization to have a, what we call an innovation lab. But that said, that lab function is not to take over that responsibility as a unique, thing that they do. Really, what they should be doing is they should be empowering the people on the front lines. Meaning that lab exists as a safe place where people who are trying different things can come. They can try a POC safely, they can proof of concept, they can try a pilot safely, and they can take away like the best of the technologies, go take it to the front lines. So, so to me, I hope it answers the question that there is a need for innovation labs to be run, and people have, and certainly if you have multiple places around, that innovation lab concept can be replicated, and there is some coordination of innovation lab that you may benefit from. But the most important thing is that that lab exists to serve the people who are really solving the problems that are moving the business forward. Those frontline people who are moving the business forward should be the end users that we keep in mind, and then you work backwards into what the right organization is to serve. So I hope that answers the question.
That helps. Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions from from the floor right now? I had a question. You mentioned these backyard innovation sessions. Can you explain those a little bit more?
Yes. So as I said before, right, the rate of pace of change being so high, one thing I did in my career is I spent 2 years traveling to every major conference there is, and I even have the lanyards from holding a whole bunch of lanyards of different color and saying I went to every conference where I had a chance to go, be it AI or machine learning or AR and VR and so on. And I found that there's a pattern there, and the pattern was you will go into these conferences, and if you're lucky, you'll stumble into something or somebody, and it is more a matter of chance, and a lot of effort was expended. And what people like Andy Tim, for example, have done, former CTO of PTC, he had this idea that, like, what, there can be some quarterbacking done here. If I take a step above, one level above, and I see who are all the people in the various ecosystems doing work, and I try to connect them. And by the way, the classic example is what our own Dan Witherington did, right? He saw what I was doing back at Global Foundries at the time, and then he saw I was dealing with things like AI and machine learning and stuff, and he found Andrew Scheuermann was a Stanford alum working at Arch Systems, working on cutting edge, predictive maintenance technologies, and he made sure that even though both of us were busy, that we were connected. And that is what I call the backyard innovation concept in principle. Same thing Andy Tim did. He just called me, last year and said, hey, just come and meet with some movers and shakers from 10 to 12 people. So we met, and it led to all sorts of great advancements, because people, when you allow them to you curate and vet and make sure these people all have something in common, they're innovators. But once you bring them together and allow them to share, hey, you're all solving similar types of problems, maybe something can happen if you come together. That is what we mean by backyard innovations, bringing them into the backyard so that you don't have to do the work of traveling to numerous conferences to go find them, right? So why is it important now? With the COVID environment, people can't travel. So conferences, it's going to take a while before that happens. Things are going to be largely virtual. But the idea of quarterbacking on innovation, idea of looking at different ecosystems and saying, you know what, this person needs to be connected, that is leadership. So to me, what Dan did, right, what NAM MLC did, bringing people like me and Jim Heppelman together, or bringing people like me and Andrew Scheuermann together, or connecting me to John Chambers, and connecting me to the secretaries of defense in the Army, Navy, and Air Force, and so on. Those forums, which are very selected, but once you sit together, something dramatic actually happens. That's called backyard innovation. That ideas like to do some quarterbacking proactively, not just the routine conferences. When you do things like that, then what happens is, like what I said before, right? We are able to now help clients do 10x the impact in in 2 months. What took 2 years? Those kinds of exponential changes, right? Just think about that for a moment. 10x the impact. What used to take 2 years now takes 2 months. It happens only because of people and the right people coming together. So let's say like Steve Moskowitz is looking for a way to transform his Integris company. My goal is, I know Steve. We worked together back at IBM and so on. We have known each other. So now by getting closer to what his problem is and working with, say, Dan Witherington of NAM, or working closely with Andy Tim, right, and saying, look, how can we help and make sure the right people are connected? And so Steve can stay focused on business outcomes, not so much on, hey, what's happening that really I need to be knowing. And that part, I think, through the backyard, and bring people to your backyard, so you don't have to go, traveling, particularly in an environment where you can't travel. And right now, the leaders are looking for ways to, come out of this lockdown period, raring to go and stepping up the gas pedal, and every way by which they can improve productivity, they are going to improve. So it's an opportunity we see to serve leaders like Steve Moskowitz and making their job easier. Stay focused on business outcomes. Take all the right innovation people coming to you and advising you and guiding you. We think there's value there. I would say NAM is already doing a great job in that part, and there is more that can be done, I believe. So that hopefully answers your question.
Yeah, thank you. That's wonderful. Do we have any other questions from our callers? Definitely have time to take at least one, possibly two more before we wrap up. Anybody got questions to ask?
So, hopefully they'll ask a few more questions. You're welcome to connect with me. The email is here, LinkedIn also you can connect. And I would say the NAM MLC forum, it's a great opportunity for us to come even more closer together and work together. Maybe physically travel may be difficult, but there's things we can do virtually, things we can do through bringing people to your doorstep by, again, through virtually, through curated backyard innovation tasting concept.
Absolutely, and thank you for your kind words. Any more questions from the floor? Okay, well, hearing none, I think I will move us toward the end here. Thank you again so much, DP, for being here with us today. Unfortunately, I forgot to put in my slide that has our next meeting date, but I believe this group will be meeting again in early July. So watch your inbox for an invitation. Again, thank you to DP for sharing your expertise today, and thank you to all of our callers for joining us. Please keep in touch with us during this really unusual time for our industry, and we hope that we can stay connected and continue to help you through this time. But thank you so much. Please stay safe, stay healthy, and we will talk to you again soon.
Thank you.